supported my wife's dream job and helped her move there, but she ghosted me, blocked my number, and I found out through social media that she was pregnant with her boss's baby while still married to me. We had been together for 2 years, married for 1, and everything seemed like it was falling into place. My wife, Melanie, was ambitious, a go-getter who had always dreamed of making it big in her career. I admired that about her and made it a point to support her in every way possible. That's what a husband is supposed to do, right? When Melanie got an unexpected opportunity to work at an elite firm in Europe, it was a mixed bag of emotions for me. On the one hand, I was thrilled for her, this was her dream. On the other hand, the idea of being apart for such a long time filled me with dread. But Melanie was ecstatic, and seeing her so excited made me push my worries aside. I told her she had to go, that I'd hold down the fort while she chased her dreams. In the months leading up to her departure, I became her biggest cheerleader. I took on more responsibilities at home so she could focus on preparing for her new role. I even helped her pack, researched the best neighborhoods for her to live in, and dealt with all the boring logistics she hated. Watching her board that plane was tough, but I comforted myself with the belief that this was just a temporary hurdle. At first, we stayed connected. Melanie would call every evening, telling me about her new colleagues, the office dynamics, and the city's charm. I'd share updates about life back home, and we'd laugh over our inside jokes. But over time, the calls became less frequent. I figured she was just busy adjusting to her new life. Then her texts started to feel distant, like they were written out of obligation rather than genuine interest. I'd ask her how she was doing, and she'd reply with one-liners. Whenever I brought up a time for us to visit each other, she'd dodge the question, saying it wasn't a good time yet. I tried to shake off the uneasiness creeping into my thoughts. Long-distance relationships were hard, everyone knew that. I told myself that Melanie was just settling into her new life and needed space to adjust. But the signs became harder to ignore. Weeks turned into months, and her communication dwindled to almost nothing. Calls went unanswered, messages left on read. I started to panic, wondering if something terrible had happened to her. Then, she blocked me. It was a small, sharp knife that sliced through my chest. I remember staring at my phone in disbelief, refreshing her profile, hoping it was some kind of mistake. But it wasn't. Her number was disconnected, her social media profiles were gone, and every trace of our connection was erased. I asked my friends and family to check her social media. Her account was temporarily deactivated. I spent days trying to make sense of it, shifting between anger and heartache. Had I done something wrong? Was this her way of telling me our marriage was over? I reached out to her family, but they claimed they didn't know much. Her mother was vague, brushing me off with awkward excuses about Melanie's demanding schedule and social media distracting her. I couldn't sleep. Every night, I scrolled through old pictures of us on my phone, searching for clues. The silence was unbearable. My mind ran wild with worst-case scenarios, but nothing prepared me for what I was about to discover. I had considered flying out, but I didn't know where she was staying anymore. I had contacted the landlord of the place I had set up for her, and he said that she moved out weeks ago. I tried to contact her company, but nothing came of it. She didn't work at the company she spoke so much about. I had called multiple times. I thought of registering a police complaint, but her mother stopped me from doing it. She told me that Melanie was fine and just needed some space, and to tell everybody else the same. She said she would contact me when she was ready. I was so confused. But I waited. Around a month had passed, and I had tried to contact her in every which way possible. I was scrolling through social media when I saw it. She had activated her account again. There she was, smiling radiantly in a picture taken at some elegant event. Her hand rested protectively on a baby bump. The caption read, "Starting a new chapter with the love of my life." Beside her stood a man I recognized vaguely from her office photos. Her boss. The post hit me like a freight train. My wife, the woman I had loved and supported, had not only abandoned me but had moved on entirely. She was pregnant. Married? Smiling like I never existed. She was still married to me legally. The betrayal was so raw, so complete, that it felt like my chest had been ripped open. My legs gave out, and I slumped onto the couch, staring at the screen as tears blurred my vision. She hadn't just left me, she had rewritten our life, erasing me entirely from the story. I wanted answers, but I also didn't want to stoop to chasing after her, because that's what I had been doing all this time. What was there to say? How could I compete with the fantasy she was living? My world was crumbling, and she was over there playing house with another man. My family and friends rallied around me, trying to keep me grounded. My best friend, Mark, was livid when I told him what happened. He said she didn't deserve my tears, and that I needed to move on and focus on myself. Easier said than done when every corner of my house reminded me of her. Why? Why did she do it? Why didn't she have the decency to tell me it was over? Why was I disposable? I had been nothing but supportive. Update 1. After discovering Melanie's betrayal through her social media announcement, I spent days in a haze, consumed by anger, heartbreak, and grief. My parents told me to focus on what I could control, but that felt impossible when my world had been flipped upside down. I couldn't just sit there and let her get away with everything she had done. In the days that followed, I sought out legal advice. I contacted a family lawyer, laying out the situation in excruciating detail. The lawyer's initial reaction mirrored my own. She said I had grounds to file a complaint for marriage fraud since Melanie had essentially abandoned our marriage and built a new life without any formal separation or divorce. I registered the complaint. It felt like a small step toward reclaiming some sort of control. I didn't know if it would amount to anything, but at least it was something. The idea that Melanie could waltz out of my life, destroy everything we had built, and then live happily ever after with no consequences made my blood boil. As I worked through the legalities, I started to reflect on how I had been blindsided. I kept replaying the last few months of our relationship, searching for signs I might have missed. Every moment I had spent supporting her, cheering her on, and making sacrifices now felt like a slap in the face. I had been her biggest supporter, and she had repaid me with this disgusting betrayal. The legal process moved slowly, but just filing the complaint felt like an anchor. It reminded me that I didn't have to sit idly by while she erased me from her life. I provided the lawyer with all the documentation I could find: our marriage certificate, proof of shared assets, and records of our communication before she disappeared. My lawyer assured me that her actions would not go unpunished, especially if she tried to take further steps that violated the terms of our marriage. What more could she do? She had already done everything. Meanwhile, I threw myself into my job, trying to distract myself from the emotional turmoil. My coworkers, sensing something was off, gave me space but also offered support. One colleague left a coffee on my desk with a note that read, "You've got this." It wasn't much, but in that moment, it felt like a lifeline. As time passed, the anger I felt toward Melanie began to outweigh the sadness. I started to see her for who she really was: a selfish, manipulative person who cared more about her ambitions and desires than the people who loved her. Melanie only ever cared about herself. Update 2. Just as I was beginning to let go, Melanie reappeared in the most unexpected way. It had been 6 months since I last heard from her. One evening, as I was sorting through some bills, my phone rang. The number was from Europe. On the other end of the line was Melanie. Her voice was shaky, and I could hear the sound of muffled sobs in the background. She said she needed to talk to me, that she was in trouble and didn't know who else to turn to. She confessed that her perfect life in Europe had crumbled to dust. Her new husband, the man she had abandoned me for, had turned out to be a fraudster. She explained, in a broken voice, that he had been running some sort of elaborate scam and had wiped out her savings. He had disappeared, leaving her pregnant and stranded in a foreign country with no money, no support, and no idea what to do next. I thought he was her boss? But then what do I know? She wasn't even working at the company I thought she was. I hadn't said a word yet. As I listened to her unravel her sob story, a storm of emotions surged within me. Karma was coming for her in the harshest way possible. But I couldn't believe her audacity. After everything she had done, she had the nerve to come crawling back to me, expecting sympathy and support. She asked if I could help her, maybe send her some money to get back on her feet. She said she knew she had made mistakes but that she was desperate and didn't know where else to turn. I stayed silent for a moment, letting her words hang in the air. Then I asked her why she thought I owed her anything. I reminded her that she had blocked me, deactivated her account, erased me from her life, and then suddenly popped up with a new one without any regard for how it would affect me. Now she was calling me, expecting me to swoop in and save her like none of that had happened. Melanie started to cry harder, saying that she didn't have anyone else. Her family had turned their backs on her, and she was scared for her baby. I was going to tell her to ask her mother, but she said she had already asked her mother. She begged me to understand that she had made a terrible mistake and just needed a chance to make things right. So, I was her last resort, huh? I told her that I wasn't her safety net. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I said that I was no longer the man she could manipulate or lean on whenever it suited her. She had burned that bridge the moment she walked out of my life without so much as a goodbye. She tried to argue, saying that we had history, that we had once loved each other, and that surely that meant something. But I cut her off. I told her that love wasn't a one-way street, and that she had destroyed any love I had for her the moment she chose to ghost me and marry someone else. I told her that I would have still held her in high regard if she had just let go respectfully and asked me for a divorce, but she hadn't. I told her that my lawyer would contact her about the divorce proceedings on this number. She hadn't been in contact even for the divorce. I don't know what she was thinking. The divorce would be granted eventually even if she didn't show up. All I had to do was wait a few more months. The conversation ended with Melanie sobbing and me hanging up the phone. I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, anger, and a twinge of pity. I called my lawyer the next day to update her on the situation. She advised me to document the call and any future interactions with Melanie, just in case she tried to cause any trouble. I told her I had recorded half of the call. I felt a sense of relief knowing that I had taken steps to protect myself. Update 3. When Liza called, her voice carried an air of urgency, as though she were on a noble mission to right a wrong. She introduced herself curtly and launched into her plea without wasting time. She said Melanie was in dire straits, barely scraping by in a shelter, pregnant, and emotionally shattered. Liza said Melanie had told her how supportive and kind I'd been during our marriage, and she couldn't understand why I was refusing to step up now. Her tone turned sharp as she accused me of abandoning Melanie in her hour of need, painting me as cold and unfeeling. I let her finish her tirade before I spoke, my voice steady but laced with the frustration bubbling under the surface. I asked her a simple question: was she the one who had encouraged Melanie to leave me in the first place? Liza stammered, caught off guard. She tried to deny it, saying she had only ever supported Melanie's decisions because she thought Melanie was doing what was best for her. I cut her off, and told her that supporting someone doesn't mean blindly cheering them on when they're making reckless, destructive choices. I asked her if she was also the one who helped Melanie craft the glowing social media post announcing her new life, the new husband, the baby on the way, the fresh start in Europe. Did she help Melanie draft the perfect captions to rub salt in my wounds while Melanie played house with her new man? Liza tried to deflect, saying that Melanie had been swept up in the whirlwind of her new relationship and that everyone makes mistakes. Her tone became defensive, as though she were trying to paint herself as an innocent bystander. I told her that if she was so concerned about Melanie's well-being, she should step up and take her in herself. I asked if she was willing to provide Melanie with a roof over her head, food, and emotional support while she sorted out her mess. Liza sputtered, claiming she didn't have the money or resources to take Melanie in. She said she wished she could help more, but her circumstances didn't allow it. That was the moment I lost my patience. I told her flatly that it was convenient for her to preach about compassion and responsibility when she wasn't the one being asked to clean up Melanie's mess. I said her sudden concern for Melanie rang hollow when she wasn't willing to put her money or her time where her mouth was. Liza tried to interrupt, saying I didn't understand the full picture. I cut her off again. I told her that I understood perfectly. Melanie had made her bed, and now she was expecting me to lie in it for her while she dug my grave next. And now, Liza, who had likely encouraged her selfish choices, was trying to guilt me into taking responsibility for someone who had treated me like a disposable backup plan. I told her that if she or anyone else continued to harass me about this, I would have no choice but to involve my lawyer. I wasn't bluffing. I had already spoken to my attorney about the situation, and we were well within our rights to file for harassment if the calls and messages didn't stop. Liza's tone shifted immediately. She tried to backtrack, saying she wasn't trying to harass me but was only looking out for Melanie. She said she didn't mean to upset me and just wanted to open a dialogue. I wasn't buying it. I told her that dialogue went out the window when Melanie chose to ghost me, marry another man, and flaunt her new life without so much as a shred of decency. I told her that I didn't know Melanie or anyone connected to her anything. Liza's voice wavered as she tried one last desperate appeal. She said the baby didn't deserve to suffer for Melanie's mistakes and that I could make a real difference in the child's life by stepping up. That hit a nerve, but not in the way she intended. I told her that I felt for the baby, but it wasn't mine. I told her if Melanie's new husband didn't feel for her or the baby, then why should I? I asked her if I had fool written on my head. I said it was Melanie's responsibility to figure out what kind of life she wanted to provide for her child, not mine. Liza was silent for a moment before mumbling something about how she hoped I would reconsider. Her voice was trembling now, as though she realized she had lost whatever moral high ground she thought she had. I ended the call with a final statement. I told her that if she contacted me again, I would follow through with my legal threats. I told her that my life didn't revolve around cleaning up the messes of people who had no regard for me, and I wasn't going to be dragged down by Melanie's poor decisions. After hanging up, I felt a mix of frustration and relief. It was exhausting having to defend myself against people who refused to see the full picture. Liza's audacity was almost laughable. She had called me cold and unfeeling, yet she wasn't willing to lift a finger to help Melanie herself. It was clear that Liza, like Melanie, was used to passing the buck, expecting others to shoulder the weight of their poor decisions. But I wasn't going to be their scapegoat. For so long, I had been the supportive partner, the one who always put others first. But Melanie's betrayal had forced me to reevaluate what I was willing to tolerate in my life. I realized that I had spent too much time trying to fix things that were broken beyond repair, and it was time to let go. Update 4. When Melanie's mother called, I braced myself for yet another attempt at manipulation. She didn't waste any time before jumping to Melanie's defense, her voice dripping with condescension. She claimed I was being heartless and vindictive by not helping Melanie during her time of need. She said a real man would step up, no matter what happened in the past. I listened for a moment, letting her dig her hole deeper, before cutting in. I told her she had some nerve lecturing me about stepping up when she, Melanie's own mother, wasn't doing anything to help her. I asked her bluntly why she wasn't the one stepping in. Wasn't it her duty as a mother to support her child? Her response was riddled with excuses. She said she didn't have the financial resources and that she had tried her best. Her voice faltered as she tried to justify her inaction, claiming she couldn't possibly take on such a burden at her age. I told her that her words sounded hollow just like Liza's. I'm sure she knew who she was. I asked her if she had actually given birth to Melanie or just picked her up off the street because her lack of loyalty and character suggested the latter. Even homeless people, I said, often show more loyalty and care for each other than Melanie had ever shown me or than she, as a mother, was showing her daughter now. Her indignant sputtering only fueled my frustration. I questioned how she had raised Melanie to become someone who thought it was acceptable to betray and abandon people left and right. I said it was no wonder Melanie had made such a mess of her life when she had such an example to follow. Her tone turned defensive as she tried to claim she had done her best as a mother. She said Melanie had always been stubborn and difficult, as though that absolved her of any responsibility. I didn't let up. I asked her if she, too, had gone through 3 or 4 husbands like Melanie and if that was why Melanie thought it was perfectly fine to treat relationships like disposable commodities. The line went silent for a moment before she snapped back, saying I had no right to judge her or her family. I laughed bitterly and told her I wasn't judging, I was stating facts. I said Melanie had made it crystal clear what kind of person she was when she ghosted me, married another man while still being married to me, and flaunted her new life on social media without so much as a shred of decency. I told her I didn't want to hear any more excuses for Melanie's behavior. Her voice wavered as she tried to change tactics, appealing to my sense of compassion. She said Melanie was pregnant, scared, and alone in a foreign country, and that it wasn't fair to punish her for mistakes she now regretted. I stopped her there. I told her Melanie's regrets were her own to deal with, not mine. If she truly felt sorry for what she had done, she could prove it by showing up in court and facing the consequences like an adult. I warned her not to dare blame me for Melanie's predicament. I reminded her that I had been nothing but supportive during my marriage to Melanie and that I didn't deserve the betrayal I had endured. I said that if she or anyone else in their family thought they could guilt me into taking Melanie back, they were sorely mistaken. I told her that if she was so desperate to help Melanie, she should do it herself. I asked her why she wasn't offering to bring Melanie home, give her a place to stay, and help her get back on her feet. She stammered something about not having the means, but I cut her off. I said her excuses sounded an awful lot like the ones Melanie had given me. She tried one last time to guilt me, saying that Melanie's child didn't deserve to suffer for her mother's mistakes. I told her that was something Melanie should have thought about before making the choices she did. I told her I wasn't going to care for a child that wasn't mine. While some people like her might be okay with it, I wasn't. Then I delivered my final blow. I told her flatly that I don't take trash back, no matter how pitiful it tries to look. I ended the call with a warning that I wasn't going to be dragged into their mess any further. I told her to tell Melanie that if she was so good at finding new husbands, she could find another one to clean up after her. And I reminded her that Melanie could show up in court if she had anything to say to me. How can people be so shameless? Why hadn't I seen these character traits before? It's true what they say, when you're in love you look at everything with rose-colored glasses. Update 5, Melanie finally made it back. Word got around quickly through gossip in the family and acquaintances, though I was no longer interested in being part of it. From what I gathered, Melanie's mother had finally stepped up, not out of maternal instinct but out of desperation to save her own reputation. After realizing that I wasn't going to budge, she sent Melanie the money to return home. It was poetic in a way. The same mother who tried to shame me for not taking Melanie back had to foot the bill herself. I had no sympathy. Melanie had burned every bridge she'd ever crossed, and now she was standing on the smoldering remains with nowhere to go. By the time Melanie set foot on home soil, the divorce had already been finalized. She didn't contest it, she couldn't, not after all the evidence I'd piled up. The court had ruled in my favor almost entirely. Melanie owed me a substantial amount of money as part of the settlement, an amount she had no way of paying anytime soon. That wasn't all. The legal fallout from her escapades in Europe had caught up to her. The fraud complaint I filed had led to an investigation, and the authorities had pieced together the mess she and her lover had created. The phone conversation between her and me was damning. They painted a vivid picture of her lack of remorse, her audacity, and her willingness to manipulate anyone who stood in her way. The judge didn't hold back. During the sentencing, he called out Melanie's complete absence of accountability. He said she showed no remorse for the pain she had caused, not just to me but to others she had deceived along the way. Her lawyer tried every trick in the book to get her a lighter sentence, arguing that she was heavily pregnant and that jail time would be unduly harsh. It didn't work. The judge handed down a 1-year sentence, stating that Melanie's actions were deliberate, calculated, and selfish. The pregnancy didn't absolve her of responsibility. If anything, it made her choices even more reprehensible. Melanie had given birth shortly before starting her sentence. From what I heard, the baby was a girl. She was left in the care of Melanie's mother while Melanie served her time. I couldn't help but feel sorry for the child, who had been brought into the world under such chaotic circumstances. I hoped, for her sake, that someone in that family would rise to the occasion and give her a better life than her mother had. But as far as I was concerned, Melanie's story ended there. I had washed my hands off her entirely. The court proceedings, the endless drama, the emotional toll, it was all behind me now. When I think back on everything, I'm struck by how much I've learned about people, about trust, and about resilience. Melanie's betrayal had nearly broken me, but it also forced me to confront my own strength. I'd been put through the ringer, but I came out the other side with a clearer sense of who I am and what I will and won't tolerate in my life. Update 6. I know there are those who might say I should feel some satisfaction in how things turned out for Melanie. But the truth is, I don't. It's not about revenge. It's about closure. Melanie's choices led her down a path of self-destruction, and I've chosen to walk a different path entirely. I've started to rebuild my life, focusing on the things and people that truly matter. I've reconnected with old friends, pursued new opportunities, and even started to think about what the future might hold for me. I've stayed off relationships. I'm taking therapy. I don't know the reasoning of why she had left me so cruelly. I get wanting to have a better life, but she could have done it decently. As for her, well, I hope she finds a way to make peace with herself someday. Not for my sake, but for the sake of that little girl who didn't ask to be born into this mess. Let this be a lesson to anyone reading this. Never let someone's betrayal define you. Learn from it, grow from it, and move on. Because at the end of the day, you're worth so much more than the lies and deceit of others. This is my last update.